Welcome to Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. Yes, you heard that right. Join your co-hosts, Dr. Sam Fuller and Dr. Dan Butz, board-certified plastic and reconstructive surgeons, on an exclusive full-access pass into the world of plastic surgery. Combining their expertise and training, Drs. Fuller and Butz will share medical insights, detailed explanations, and lighthearted humor to keep you entertained and informed. We're certain you'll become passionate about the plastic surgery specialty, and between debunking myths, uncovering truths, or just making you laugh out loud at their perspective on this creative and artistic field, we've got something for everyone. From tummy tucks to Botox and mommy makeovers to surgery do-overs, the Fuller Butz Podcast will surely satisfy your podcast fix.
Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Fuller Butz Podcast. It is a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast, and I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Sam Fuller, and joining me as always is Dr. Dan Butz. Welcome to Season 3. Who would have thought? Look at us. Who would have thought that we're in Season 3 of the Fuller Butz Podcast?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when we started this 3 years ago, it was like, yeah, this will be fun, do some content, but it's like now on a regular basis, patients are coming in and saying, yeah, I listened to your podcast and I thought this was really interesting. So I think it's providing more patient education on all these kind of really big topics that are hard to get into in a consult. But it's been a while. I feel like I don't remember the last time we recorded one. Lots happened, busy.
Yeah,
busy
earlier in 2025, we took the summer and fall off, very busy practices and lives, and back for more. I do see patients are fact checking me, being like, oh yeah, I remember that's what you said on the podcast and stuff. And I was like, okay, now I need to really know what to say and what not to say. But it's great education. Actually, a few topics for this season is patient focus. A patient gave us some ideas for some of the things that we're going to talk about, because we want to hear from you. We want to make sure that you guys are confident, comfortable moving forward with your plastic surgery consultations and surgical procedures. How is your 2025 wrapping up, Dan?
It's been busy. This last quarter has just been really just nonstop. So looking forward to a little bit of break. It's kind of interesting as we've been talking about this, kind of looking back at what we talked about at the beginning of 2025. We'll kind of reflect on some of that. But I thought those numbers you were talking about from our Spotify podcast wrapped data would be pretty interesting to share as well.
Yes, just as most of you have a Spotify account or some sort of music account, and they'll have a wrapped for you showing you that, who your favorite artist is, what's your favorite genre. For me, I was in the top 1% of Bob Dylan listeners, which was, I think, a good thing. And my listening age was 80 years old, which was pretty embarrassing.
I was 30.
Yours was 30? What do you
I
listen
was
to?
kind of surprised by that.
Or something?
I think I have a lot of. I think my kids. I don't know how I got to 30. Not that cool.
Suspect. I have to look into that. But the Spotify for Creators, or our Spotify account, also did a wrapped, and it showed some really great feedback for us. For instance, it showed that there was a 31% increase in total listening time compared to the year before. There's a 67% increase in total followers for Spotify. There is a 478% increase in new audiences for last year, which is just wonderful and exciting. And, we really want to thank you for your support. If we look at outside of Spotify, since Spotify only encompasses about 25 to 30% of our listeners, with, of course, the Apple Podcast being the most, we're actually have been listened to and seen in 49 different countries and 638 cities now, which is pretty remarkable. Dan, do you know the most popular city? Who has listened to the Fuller Butz Podcast the most? Which city?
I mean, I think it'd probably be in the Midwest, the Chicago region.
No. You get one more guess and I'll tell you. It's not in the United States.
I'm not going to guess it then.
Frankfurt, Germany.
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt
My last name is working for us.
Yeah. Danke to everyone in Frankfurt, and thanks for joining us. You guys have outweighed Chicago, Green Bay, Milwaukee, South Bend, Portland, Oregon, Dallas, Texas, Granger, Indiana, Minneapolis as the top 10. So lots of great wrapped up for 2025. And just as Dan, you mentioned earlier, we made some bold predictions at the start of the year. We wanted to see if our predictions came true. And one of those predictions was the Motiva implant, which was a new FDA-approved implant. And we envisioned that the ballerina body and the Motiva implant was going to be here to stay. What does the survey say? What's your response now that we're at the end of 2025 looking back?
I think I underpredicted it a little bit. I thought it would be here to stay, but I wasn't super hot on it. Like I didn't think it was going to totally, take over my implant volume. But after slowly kind of using it more and more, patients loving it, good feedback, looking great. Just a little bit extra boost for the same volume. It's now probably like 80-90% of my augmentations, and it's probably going to maybe even take over more. What's your experience been?
Yeah, I was excited about it from the get-go, really because it was patient-driven with their safety features with the Blue Seal technology for production manufacturing, weeding out any imperfections, their monoblock technology just with less rippling, less risk of ruptures, really looking at that implant as something that can provide a beautiful result in whichever size that the patient chooses. I agree. I think I sort of underestimated just how successful it was going to be. It's at least 90% of my practice, and really, it's not just me, but my patients love it too. Just a very natural feel, and aesthetically, between their ergonomics and their round, there's a little bit of a learning curve just to understand what the mini, the demi will deliver, and kind of understanding how this implant is different than the other implants. For instance, it's actually filled 100% as opposed to like 92-94% as the other implants, amongst other things. A little nuances, but really super excited about it, and super excited about what the company has in store for us in future months and years.
I think I was a little skeptical going into it. Like, again, their data was almost too good. But really digging into it, talking to colleagues, I actually went down to Costa Rica and kind of toured their facility. And I think it is really just that good. Like they've really, started from the ground up and looked at a lot of this implant technology is kind of dated. Like, how do we build a better implant, safer implant? So again, rupture rates are much lower. Calcium contraction rates, like you mentioned, super low. Just the feel, you're going to doing a lot more of these subfascial augmentations. I've seen no rippling in even really thin patients, selecting the right implant size. So it's really kind of expanded that subfascial option, which for really active patients, I think is great to, kind of be a little bit more or less invasive above the muscle, make the recovery faster, get back to activity faster, which will, they're also working on other things we'll talk about in a little bit as well, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, we'll dedicate an entire podcast episode on the Motiva and in a little bit more depth. But for instance, I had a patient who sought me out through their website who had 3 implants previously placed. Saline, exchange because they didn't like it for a textured implant, which was then recalled and then was kind of too big, didn't like it, took it out, and then a few years later wanted an implant back in. And those are the ones where you really need to have your radar on and your brain thinking. And I felt very confident going in, not only with the Motiva implant, but also the internal bra, which we'll talk about just to reinforce and hold it together. Patients very pleased. So it's good to have more tools in our toolbox. You mentioned 90% of your patients. Is there a specific patient population, whether it's size or type or other things that kind of excludes the Motiva, or do you just feel like you're still offering different options for each person?
It's probably just, now it's probably getting closer to 100%, but for revision patients who've had that implant, warranty processes, there's still other very good implants out there. So it's not, like it's wrong to use the other implants. But I think for a lot of the reasons we just mentioned, it's definitely becoming my preferred choice.
Yeah, I will say that for recon cases, their sizes don't go up as high as the other companies, and so for some of the larger ones, you may not have something available. But I agree, it's the price is the same currently. Success is wonderful. 6th generation implant. So Motiva, I think we're got a checkbox in the correct position. Our predictions were valid. What about? Let's switch over to internal bra, since we already mentioned it. We thought that internal bra would really kind of provide a stable force and a foundational unit for our breast augmentations. What did you see in your practice, and also just in the world of plastic surgery for 2025?
Yeah, I think that's just continued to expand. I've kind of, used, in the last year or so, is kind of, I would selectively, recommend using the internal bra. But in 2025, it really kind of became just standard of care. Like, I think this is just a good insurance policy, just prevent any potential for stretch. Just thinking about a lot of patients I see for revisions who are coming in, most of them from other surgeons for things that are stretched out, bottomed out, lateralized. We want to prevent that from happening. Those surgeons probably weren't doing something wrong. It's just adding extra weight, bigger implants, that can happen over time. So I think it's just kind of looking back and trying to figure out how we can prevent those things. It makes a lot of sense. So it's getting close to probably 100%. What about yourself?
Yeah, same. I think it's just part of, I kind of coined this Fuller breast augmentation because my name is such a perfect term for it. But it includes the internal bra, and whether it's social media marketing, it's education, it's seeing the before and afters. It's really hard to dispute not using it. It's, in my practice, just provides a more consistent, reliable result. It has significantly decreased the risk and concern for revisions. It's been shown in the literature to decrease capsular contractures and infections, using it in breast recon cases instead of Alloderm and other more expensive products with excellent results. So to me, it's here to stay unless techniques and other things sort of find it to be expendable or no longer necessary. But for right now, it's made a great impact. Patients are ecstatic. They're coming in requesting the internal bra. It's great to show them in person what it looks like, the fact that it's dissolvable. So lots and lots of benefits. I'm very pleased and happy with it, as you are.
What about, we talked about Alloclay a little bit too, right? That was on our list of a new product that could be blowing up. Is that?
Yeah, first of its kind, off-the-shelf fat. So patients who don't have a lot of fat to harvest and donate to themselves, they don't want to have the recovery, the downtime. They want to do something that's in the office. Made a lot of sense. We were both went through the training process and seminars and so forth. I was not able to find a patient, quite honestly. I have 0 cases under my belt. Don't push it that hard. Not really. I would say it's part of my patient population that's coming in just wanting finer imperfections filled. I still use fat transfer regularly as a supplement for other cases, but to me that was kind of a swing and a miss. Did not hit the mark as high as the internal bra and Motiva. What about you?
Yeah, I've used it a couple times. I have a couple of cases coming up. Most patients have some fat you can take relatively easily, so it's hard to justify the cost unless cost isn't a factor for them, which isn't all that common. But for super thin patients who really don't have a lot, it can be helpful to kind of fill in certain areas. So I think it has a place, but it's not something for everyone for sure. But yeah, I think it'll keep evolving. I think maybe with more time, the price will come down and make it a more affordable option for things. But at this time, it's not a barn burner by any means.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. And then, so I think, we were talking about, you mentioned before we were talking about Motiva that, the mesh, that maybe we can get away from that. And that kind of leads into a new thing that's coming out in 2026. That's pretty exciting. So I know we've been chatting about this before, and I'm sure people may have heard about it. Preserve. It's actually a new device and technique that Motiva came out with to try to make an even less invasive breast augmentation technique to really preserve all the natural breast anatomy. And really the core ligaments is what they're looking at. So instead of going in and kind of cutting and making a pocket, they use this blunt dissection to go underneath the breast tissue and expand that space to preserve these kind of in the internal breast ligaments, call this nesting concept. So that was a kind of a big topic when I was in Costa Rica. And some early adopters are kind of getting their hands on for an early study. And it seems really promising, less invasive. You can do it under local anesthesia for the right patient if they're comfortable with that. Likely just taking it easy for a weekend, back to full exercise in 2 weeks. So big potential for even making this less invasive, faster recoveries, and really safe outcomes. Have you seen the data that they've published in the first 5,000 cases, mostly in Europe?
Yeah,
They had like zero hematomas and zero capsular contractions, which again, sometimes like that's kind of, pretty remarkable. But I think it just goes to, to say that in this, they really spent a lot of time focusing on, fine tuning this technique to make it more predictable, and less invasive, less traumatic to those tissues, and safer is the bottom line for patients. So it's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to getting trained and hopefully starting to offer that as well.
Yeah, I'm equally going to be trained and am equally interested just with any other new technique, new device. I think that proceeding with caution, looking at the data, making sure that, are you just looking at the absolute perfect candidate for this? Is everyone a candidate? If someone has significant ptosis or sagginess and they need a lift as well, how does that interplay? It's interesting to see some of the, I wouldn't say new adopters, but some of the people that were part of the piloting within the US, post some results. Some of it I think is just for sheer marketing and just showing that, hey, I'm doing the first of this or the first of that, which is, I wouldn't say disappointing, but you just want to make sure that we're focusing on patient outcomes, patient safety. But to me, those are the things that I'd be looking for, because even today I had a patient message me saying, hey, when you're doing my tummy tuck, can you inject all my fat in my face? And I'm like, no, like that's not. And she's like, well, I saw it on Instagram. I'm like, well, just because you saw it there doesn't mean that you're a candidate for this, that this is the best thing. So really, I think that any new device or new tool, new technology means new educational parameters, and really having our patient populations understand what this is. Are they a candidate? How they may benefit from that. But super exciting. I agree. That's probably a top 26 bold prediction. Is we'll be talking about that a lot more this year.
I think give a lot of credit to Motiva. When I was down there, they're really focused on safety, make sure this rolls out in a very safe and well-trained fashion. They're not just giving this out to anybody. They only sell their implants to board-certified plastic surgeons. So that alone, is going to, likely provide safer outcomes and improve their data set. And, the training is very much hands-on. They're not just giving this to anyone to kind of, again, try it. You need to go do a hands-on, kind of evaluation, or not evaluation, but kind of, overseeing training session to make sure you're, safe and understand how to do this properly. So I think that's the key, like you mentioned, really the key thing. And I agree. I don't think this is going to replace all breast augmentations. There's limited size. I think the max size goes up to I think it's 320, maybe 350. It's a little bit smaller options, and it's largely due to we're using a really small incision. So if you put too big of an implant through a small incision, that you can fracture the gels. So there's kind of a limit to how that you can go with that. And not everyone's a great candidate for a bump, in this pocket either. So it's exciting. I think
we'll have a whole podcast episode on this, so we'll dive deep into it. But yeah, super exciting. It's awesome that you were able to go down to Costa Rica. It was a beautiful facility, and had a great time. You were mentioning any other take-home points from the Costa Rica trip as far as their factory or their vibe or anything?
Yeah, I mean, they just have really poured a lot of research into, again, creating a safer implant for women. Like they're a women's focused kind of company. So it was pretty clear that is kind of their driving force, is to make things safer. Where it's really expensive to develop a new implant. And they really kind of started from scratch 15 years ago. So where a lot of other technologies kind of become a little bit stagnant, this is kind of always evolving and new, and they're making it better and better. So it was pretty cool, meeting the founder, seeing the facilities. They're pristine, brand new, and just kind of talking to the surgeons who've also had very great experiences. So
for sure. A couple other mini or nano projections for 2026 for me include just optimizing preoperative, postoperative care. That includes preoperative nutrition, postoperative garments, compression garments. That remains a hot topic for discussion, like which garment, what size, if there's different phases, if I'm swollen, what size, and just trying to establish some universal wardrobe that fits each person, because if somebody's 5'2", 5'3" versus 5'10", it's just like they fit differently, and there's always these issues. So for myself, it's just trying to iron out the wrinkles of some of those outliers that are there, as well as optimizing nutrition. Can we minimize any healing issues, scar healing issues with whether it's hyperbaric oxygen, IV therapy, lymphatic massages, how can we create a sequence that's going to accelerate recovery and minimize any of the downsides of the surgeries?
100%. Yeah, I think you've joked about keeping your patients in a little bubble. We can't do that. So trying to help guide them through that early recovery phase to optimize as much as possible. There's a lot of things out there. You can spend a lot of money on a lot of things. Trying to find the things that are worth the extra expense, I think, are the key things to really help patients along. And we too are also trying to continue to kind of tweak that as well. So,
and then lastly, the other thing that we had talked about at the 2025 bold predictions was like the ballerina breast, like really tiny, small implants. In my practice, I saw it, but I didn't see as much of an uptick. Like it wasn't everybody coming in. I still feel like a majority of the patients want a nice full breast. I think I see that because a lot of patients have either lost weight, they've breastfed, they've, kind of gone through the motherhood destruction of their bodies and want that fullness back. So certainly it's great to have those options, especially within Motiva with the minis. And we're not, putting in the largest of all implants. I still think it's under 400 for sure is the most common. And it's nice to have great options along that line. But I guess I didn't see as much of I want the tiniest implant that you got. I definitely have a cohort of that, but it's not the majority. And I think you didn't expect it to be, a huge pendulum swing either, but I wanted to hear your feedback because I'm not sure geographically if, we have different experiences just based on where we practice.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a dramatic shift. I think my theory is it's more of we're really expanding the patient population who is interested in augmentations because now they can have smaller, more natural results. Less invasive still can allow them to do their active thing without, I feel like a lot of people think about breast augmentation and think, fake looking results. But so that the thinner, smaller patients were kind of excluded from that because they didn't have implants that would really fit and achieve that. With these mini and low plus profiles and these newer gel types, you can get super natural looking, but perky and kind of that ballerina result. So definitely doing a fair number of them, but like you said, the average patient still probably wants that, mid 300 to 400 cc implant. And, for at least for my, a lot of my mini augs, I feel like they're less likely to want to share the photos. So it's I always have a little fewer examples to share on social media and whatnot. But
and it makes sense if they want something very small, be very personal and self-conscious and, just be private about it. Don't want anybody to know. They certainly don't want to share it either. But those are great patients. And certainly we admire and trust them, with our care and vice versa. So it's great. Was a wonderful 2025 wrapped edition of the Fuller Butz Podcast. Any other bold predictions or reflections on the year?
Nice. Keep on keeping on. I think it'll be a good 2026.
It's going to be great. And we'll be rolling out new episodes through 2026. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, especially all you in Frankfurt, Germany, for the love. And everybody have a good rest of the day.
All right. Let's talk soon. See ya.
See ya.
Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of Fuller Butz, a behind-the-scenes plastic surgery podcast. Doctors Fuller and Butz are so appreciative of your time and attention. We invite you to subscribe, share, and continue to enjoy our plastic surgery perspective. Feel free to reach out on Instagram at either @FullerSurgeryMD or @DanielButzMD. That's Butz with a Z for comments, suggestions, and support. Remember, be artsy, stay scientific, and make life fun. We hope you'll join us again on the next episode of Fuller Butz.